Alright, what is up guys? VV back with another video. And in today's video guys, we're gonna be kind of looking at the OP-06 meta over in the East. And I think I've said it before on another video, I think they're technically an OP-06.5 or very close to that. And we're gonna be focusing on two decks today, and that is Gecko Moria and Blue-Black Sakazuki. And that's right, we're talking about in OP-06, because for those who don't know, you know, over in the West right now, OP-05, Sakazuki's doing very well. Well, Gecko Moria comes out in OP-06, but it's actually running a very similar engine, and we're going to kind of talk about that right now. So just to give everybody an idea, I'm just going to show y'all what's been recorded on this One Piece Top Decks, let me see, One Piece TopDecks.com, yeah, website. It kind of shows, this is what to expect right now. I'll zoom in a little bit so it's a little easier to read. You've got some, when it comes to like decks running black, it's really just Sakazuki and Gecko Moria are the overwhelming majority of it. And now we're starting to see some, what's her name here, Perona pop up, as well as Black Yellow Luffy a little bit. Because this is a list in the Philippines that went 6-1 and got first place in the tournament for Black Yellow Luffy. I think it's more about not, you know, how do I say it? I've watched this deck play out quite a bit. And I don't think it's as good as people wanted it to be, or maybe they thought it would be. I'll have to do an entire video on this sometime in the future. But long story short, I don't think this will be taking over the meta. I could be wrong. Who knows? You know, there's not been a large tournament in a while now, because as you can see here, for at least that's what's been you know, recorded on this site. But the most recent thing they've submitted was, at the time of me recording this, let me see, it's today it's the 6th, and this was submitted the 2nd. So, and if you look on the right here, notice these tournaments are all like 64 and under. And by the way, a 64 player tournament is a very big tournament, and same thing with a 100 player tournament. But I'm really talking about something like this, these 1,000 player tournaments. And, excuse me, and this was about 2 weeks ago now, at the time of me recording this. And what we saw was lots of Sakazuki, and actually kind of a rogue deck in Perona kind of made it through. But if you watch those games, you know, I don't mean to make excuses or dismiss things, but it was surprising to me that the Perona won. Quite a few things had to go Perona's way to win this tournament. And in 2 games, excuse me, in 2 games that this Perona deck won, and I'll, excuse me guys, I'll bring it up while I'm explaining it. In 2 of the games in the top 8 that this player won, their opponent did not draw a single 2K counter the entire game. Like, the actual entire game. In both games. Which is just, you know, I'm not saying it's pure luck that this person won. Because, you know, if there were 2K counters, of course the players play differently. Right? It doesn't always necessarily affect the outcome. But it just seemed insane. And for those who haven't watched it, you know, definitely check that out if you have not checked it out already. I put both games, I believe I put both of the games on my channel. One was against Sakazuki, and the other one was against Katakuri. Katakuri or Enel, I can't remember. But long story short, I think this Perona list is very good, by the way. I think it's excellent. I think it's extremely good. And I'm just going to say it like this. We're at a point in the game where we're like, okay, if a deck runs black, you are going to see these cards right here in it. Sakazuki, Borsalino, Kuzan, Tashigi, Tsuru, Virgo, Branu, Sabo, and Gecko Moria. That is just going to become this little package. And yes, you can move things around. Like, for example, some people have gone no Tashigi in the Sakazuki deck because the blue, the new 1-cost blue searcher for Tashigi cannot search herself. So people have just gone to, you know, 4 Tsurus, 4 Virgos, just like this. And some have completely cut Tashigi out entirely. Excuse me. And I do understand that, by the way. But for this list, why would they? They're only running the brand new searcher, and brand new can hit Rosinante. It can hit. There was one other nice one it could hit too, X Drake. It's just nice, right? It's just really good stuff. But long story short, the Perona list is very, very solid, very good stuff. But you're seeing the same package because so here's the second place. So this was first and second place, this Perona and this Sakazuki. And when you look at the Sakazuki list, like, the only thing that they've added that we didn't see in the last one is they're able to run Hina and Rob Lucci, right? Excuse me. And because they're running Hina and Rob Lucci, they're going to squeeze in Rebecca, and they just completely get rid of the Kuzan. You see, there's always like a give and take, but it's all roughly the exact same thing. And then you can see Gecko Moria popping in as well, obviously, like we talked about. And this runs the whole Navy package for obvious reasons, with it being Sakazuki. So, like I was saying, with the big focus of this, now let's talk back about Gecko Moria. This is the most recent good placing for Gecko Moria. I don't think Gecko has won any tournaments, any big tournaments. I mean 100-plus player tournaments. I could be wrong with that. Let's see. We can actually check. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. My allergies. So let's just go. Here's an 86 winning that he got second place in. 3-on-3, I don't count those. I'm sorry, guys. Again, 3-on-3. Here's a 1,500 player tournament where he got top 16, top 8. It got top 2 in this 96 player tournament. And who knows? Second place in a 450 player tournament. Here's one. Here's 3-on-3. Just kidding. 500 plus player, top 32. So I mean, long story short, guys, I do think that this deck cannot quite. I don't think this deck is actually top tier. Maybe some revisions need to be made. We'll look at some of these lists up here. They got first place in 64 player tournaments. But here, I'm going to bring up this first one. As you can see, remember what we were just talking about. You're seeing Branu, you're seeing Borsellino, Kuzan, Tashigi, Suru. This deck's running the Lucci package as well. We'll talk about the Gecko stuff in a second, but with Helmeppo. And really, it looks like, and we'll see how things go in the future. We'll see how things evolve. But if you look at this right now, it looks like Gecko Moria is just a Navy deck. That's all it is. And then it just has a little bit of support from Thriller Bark Pirates, right? That's it. Because look at this. It's running Hogback to get back Gecko Morias or Absaloms, whichever is needed. Sindri's a 2K counter. Perona's a 2K counter, but they are at least Thriller Bark that have some synergy with the leader. And guys, this card, Perona, is just good, period. I've been bragging about this card. This card is insane. You can run this in any deck now. So it doesn't even matter. And it's not leader locked. It doesn't matter. They just have to have 5 or less cards in hand to get the on-play effect. Or excuse me, five or more cards in hand. Excuse me, not 5 or less. 5 or more cards in hand to get this this on-play effect. And then Sindri does get some effect from being a Thriller Bark Pirates type leader, where she can mill 5 cards off the top of your deck and fuel up your Gecko Moria, Absalom, and Rob Lucci. But here's the thing, you know, Sakazuki can already do that just every single turn. Like, Sakazuki can just, you trash a card, draw a card, right? You're literally cycling a card into your trash every turn, and then you can reserve this as an actual 2K counter spot. And speaking of which, look how many 2K counters are in this deck, guys. 4 Suru, 4 Sindri, 4 Perona, and 2 Tashigi. That's 14 2Ks. I do like that quite a bit. I didn't actually realize that until just now, but that is very nice. But otherwise, this is a pure Navy list, guys, with a little bit of Gecko Moria support, the 8-cost character. For those who don't know what's going on with Helmeppo, let me explain. So this is a 2-cost, 3,000 power, 1K counter character. The on-play is what's incredible. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -3 to their cost during this turn. So, what is that letting you do? Well, real quick, just so everyone understands, this card, Gecko Moria, the 8-cost leader, or the 8-cost character, has on play, grab a 4 and a 2 back from your trash. So you see what you're going to be able to do here. Excuse me, what you're going to be able to do here is you're going to grab back a Helmeppo to give something -3, and then you're going to be able to grab back a Rob Lucci or an Absalom to KO a 5 or less with this effect, right? Or a 2 and a 3, right? You see what I'm saying? Or a 2 and a 4 rather, with Rob Lucci, things like that. You can get a 5 and a 1 or a 2 and a 4. Like, it gives you so much extra, potential, and it's a 1K counter. So if you do have it in hand, you can just counter out of an early attack with this and know you're going to get value from it later with your Gecko Moria. So you see what's going on there. You can also do that with Suru, by the way. It doesn't have to be a 2-cost character. It has to be a 2 or less. So you can, even if you don't have Helmeppo in the trash, you can still run Suru there and just get it back that way. Or get -2. It's just one off. And it's a 2K counter. Very easy to get in your trash. Excuse me. So again, and I'm not trying to say... Here's all I'm trying to say. Thriller Bark Pirates is really interesting, and I think this leader is really good. But if they're going to run just a straight-up Navy package, it does not make sense to run this leader for it. That's my only argument. Because just so everyone also knows, with Gecko Moria's effect, you can discard any card from your hand and put the top 2 cards from your deck into the trash, but then you have to play a Thriller Bark Pirates type character with a cost of 4 or less from your trash. So in other words, you can, in this deck, you can only play Absalom, Hogback, or Perona. That's it. So yes, that is decent, right? It is fueling your trash, but you can't throw out Lucci. You can't throw out Branu, Kuzan, Borsellino. Obviously Sabo, he's 5 cost anyway, but you just can't. The question becomes, why run this over Sakazuki, the blue-black leader, right? And we're going to go and look at that now. So real quick, I just showed y'all, yes, there are a lot of first-place finishes in some 3-on-3 tournaments and some smaller, under 100-player tournaments for Gecko Moria. But now, let's take that off and just go to Sakazuki. And it's a very different story. Here's a 100-player tournament I got first, right off the bat here. Second place at the 1,000-player tournament. First place, that's 3-on-3. We won't count that. There haven't been a lot of tournaments. I'm not going to lie. There have not been a ton of tournaments, but first place here. And it did at this, another 3-on-3. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get to the ones that are actually. So here's the first place, 450-player tournament. Top 8, 500. I'm trying to find just the big ones, guys. I'm sorry. First place, 3-on-3. Whatever the case is, this one's, I feel like it's having a little more success. And that's not very hard for me to understand why, right? Because this leader, we're just going to click on this most recent 7-0 list. I don't know how many people are at this tournament, by the way. It doesn't specify right here. It usually would have a parentheses afterwards and say the number. But this list has become completely solved for the most part. I'm sure there's little things here and there you can do to customize it and make it a little better against certain matchups. But this deck list is basically solved. Excuse me. And all they added in OP-06, all this is normal. Instead of the 2K counter to Shigi, they run Virgo now because of this new searcher to Shigi. It can't grab itself. So in other words, if you were to see the 2K counter to Shigi from her search, you still can't grab it even though it's not the same card because of how this is worded, because of how it's searching. Okay? What else? Everything else is the same. Rebecca, Lucci. But now, instead of running the 10-cost Kaido, which is what a lot of people are running now, the 10-cost draw 4 Kaido in OP-05, well, now we just have a better, we just have a simply better option that gives us so much more value from our trash, and it comes down a turn sooner, which means it's only, making it 2 Dawn less, that gives us more options to use like Hound Blaze, this new Amano Murakumo sword from OP-06. This is like a miniature Rob Lucci effect. It just gives you all this extra utility. So yeah, that's kind of the main thing I wanted to talk about in today's video. Is today was just a meta watch for over in the East to see how things are going between the two main black decks right now, which I would consider Sakazuki and Gecko Moria. And honestly, I think unless something changes with Gecko Moria, I don't know what, by the way, but I think they need to change it off of this list if they want to make it worth running. Because, yes, there's incredible synergy between Rebecca, Hina, Lucci, this whole package here. We already know this, the Navy package. We've seen it now, for what, 5 months now, 6 months now, we've seen it. But this, Gecko Moria, which is the strongest card in Gecko Moria, sorry for the confusion there, guys, the character versus the leader, this is not leader locked, and it's not even color locked, which is why you see cards like this in there. This Gecko Moria can snag this card out of your trash. This is a 4-cost, 4,000 power, 1K counter, Big Mom Pirates, Charlotte Pudding. With an on play, your opponent returns all of their hand cards to their deck and shuffles their deck. Then your opponent draws 5 cards. So y'all see the utility here, right, guys? If your opponent has been building up a certain hand to beat you in the late game, and you just play this, even if they only have 5 cards in hand, this is devastating. Because now, say they had 3 2Ks in hand and a defensive action or something, or maybe their win condition in their hand for next turn, and you drop this on them, well, there goes all your 2K counters and your win condition, and now, they could technically redraw it, you know what I mean? It's possible for them to redraw it afterwards, but highly unlikely. highly, highly unlikely. But yeah, and Gecko Moria can use this card with its on-play effect if it needs to. So it can, if you're in just a commanding position, you can just play out a Branu with the effect and a Charlotte Pudding to nerf their hand, and just you get a better hand, and you establish an 8K body, which means you still had 2 Dawn to work with if you need to wipe their board up or Hound Blaze something. Just so many options. And then just in the leader effects alone, Gecko Moria, the leader, his effect costs 3. And yes, it can cheat into play a 4 with an effect on it, right? Whatever the character's effect is. But this just lets you cycle naturally and do -1 wherever you need to turn on your stronger removal effects like Rob Lucci, like Borsellino, like, where is it? Hound Blaze, and this new Amano Murakumo sword. So, anyway, good stuff there, guys. Both decks are probably very fun to play. You know, like, I've been playing Sakazuki lately just to get some experience with it. It's Navy. It runs black. These are all the things that got me into the game. Of course, I have to mess with this deck. I've been trying to make it as far away from the standard list as possible because I hate the idea of using the meta deck list. For those who don't follow the channel, who don't know me, I do not like to play what's meta. I'm more of I'm not a net decker. You know, that's like a bad word, right? In TCGs, someone who net decks is someone who just goes, oh, I want to go to a tournament. Well, let me just go to a website and just find the best deck. You know, they'll go on here. Okay, what's the one that got the most recent first place? All right, I'll just go this. And like, I just like, I cannot do it, guys. Like, it's just something I cannot do. I don't know if it's like an ethical thing for me or character based. I have no idea. I literally can't do it. I refuse. Like, if I were to play this deck right here, Gecko Moria, I'd be dropping every one of these Navy cards with a few exceptions. Like, you know, Suru's just a good 2K counter. That can -2. But you guys get the point. But anyway, and I don't judge anyone who does. If you can play whatever deck you want to. Whatever deck you enjoy, you should be playing it, right? And that's really more what I'm arguing. I think people should be, you know, focusing more on just playing the deck that they enjoy versus what wins, quote unquote, you know. Now, I understand at the big tournaments where it's like a $30 or $50 entry fee, you know, okay, sure. In that case, yes, you should. Maybe in that case, you should just be playing what wins. But if you take a chance, you could win by playing what doesn't win, beating what does win. If that makes sense. Sorry, that was a little bit of a, you know, tongue twister. But the idea is, if you know everyone's going to play a certain list, let's just pretend here. Let's just say, oh yeah, everyone's going to be playing this list. Okay, well, just make a deck that literally counters this list, and the deck could be just absolutely trash against all the other weird leaders like Black Yellow Linlin, right? Against, you know, if it could be trash against Black Yellow Linlin or Blue Dofi or Purple Yellow Crocodile might even beat the list, but who cares if you only are going to go against the deck that you teched to beat every single time? You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that made sense. And if someone doesn't understand, just ask in the comment section below and I'll explain it a little better, or try to. All right, guys, that's about it. So again, just look at the meta over in the East right now to see what we're kind of going into. I don't think Gecko Moria has been fully figured out yet, or if it has, maybe it just doesn't have the tools it needs. Maybe it needs more cards in the future to help push it to the next level. But until the time, you know, until something is figured out, I don't know why you just wouldn't be running Blue-Black Sakazuki for the black deck that you want to run for, you know, that runs the Navy package. It's just fully fleshed, like completely fleshed out to run this kind of package here, where you just have tons of removal. You have blue removal, black cost reduction, and graveyard recursion, and ways to, you know, cost reduce, all that stuff. I think I just said that, cost reduction, cost reduce. You know what I mean? With the you know, all the Navy stuff we just talked about. There's just so much going on there, and what the leader effect does, an extra -1 to the cost of characters for your removal, and the ability to cycle cards and fill up your trash to help synergize with your Gecko Moria, Rob Lucci, and Perona. Notice they're not even running Manshuri anymore. They're not even running Manshuri anymore, because why would you? You could just run Gecko Moria. Really good stuff there. Right, guys, if y'all got any questions, comments, by all means, put them below. Tell me what you think. I think the next list, or excuse me, I think the next video I'm probably going to be putting out, or as soon as I can, is actually probably going to be something on red, yellow, Sabo. Just going to give a little sneak peek here. This list, guys, this list is filthy. I think it has potential. We'll see. And one thing I do want to say before I end, guys, is you have to realize, too, the decks that we're seeing in these huge tournaments, I love looking at the smaller tournaments for stuff like this to see what kind of potential's out there. But the list you see at the huge tournaments, like these 1,000-player tournaments, they're not always, how do I say that? Yeah, it is accurate that that's probably the best deck in the format, but there could be other better decks out there that just don't get explored. Like I've said this before, like I look at like lists. Let me go to the West real quick, where we are. Okay, right here. And you know, I look at these tournaments that Enel's winning. Like let me go to a big tournament real quick. Sorry, guys. 74 player. Well, here's one, like 60 player one. There was a big one that NL had one recently. I can't seem to find it. Oh, let me just sort by NL. Sorry, guys. I'm all over the place today. Okay. OP-06 NL. That's weird. They must have just said it or worded it wrong. Okay, so let's look for the biggest tournament that it won. Here we go. Here's like a first place regional. First and second place of the same regional was NL. Well, here's the thing, guys. People were probably only running NL, Purple Luffy, maybe some Red Purple Luffy, maybe some Red Purple Law, and then Blue Black Sakazuki. Well, in my mind, it's like, okay, I will take an NL matchup as Black Yellow Lin Lin all day, every day, right? Like that is a very favorable match. It's not to say that NL can't win, by the way, but that is a very, very favorable matchup for Black Yellow Lin Lin. And so in my mind, it's like, why wouldn't more people try that deck out? Or if they have a list that beats NL, like I'm saying, like it doesn't have to be Black Yellow Lin Lin. The reason is people know what is doing well right now, and they don't. A lot of people don't even want to take a chance at playing a deck that's like, oh, well, maybe it won't be good enough. Anyway, that's an argument for a whole nother day, guys. That's you know, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. All right, guys. Until next time, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, guys, peace.